Today I'm going to show you how to map those most notorious things to map in DJ software, and that is the jog wheels. We're going to do it in Mixxx 1.11.0. This is a development version because we haven't released it yet, but the procedure is the same for Mixxx 1.10 and even 1.9. So the first thing you would do is go to our website, click on Wiki, because we have all development information in the Wiki, and click on Controller and MIDI Mapping Documentation. You should read about the controller and MIDI mapping file format. It goes into great detail. Let me give you a little crash course here. I have a Reloop Terminal Mix 4 controller here, and the controls that I have here are I've mapped through the MIDI mapping wizard. We actually have a much better one in 1.11, which is point and click. That's the one I used for this, but the output is the same as the one that that's in 1.10. You've got the group and the key. First, focus on the control block. This file is fairly simple. There's just a lot of control blocks because you've got a lot of physical controls, but each block has the same structure. The group and the key comes from the Mixxx control. So if we switch back to the wiki, click on Mixxx controls, and this gives you a list of all the controls that are internal to Mixxx. This is the group on the left side, and this is the key here. So if we go back to our example file, we've got master for the group and head mix for the key. And so here's the master group. They're in alphabetical order. Here's head mix, and we find that it's actually for the cue and main mix for the headphone output. It's called cue mix on the controller. So that's what goes here, and then the status and MIDI note comes from the controller itself. If you need to know what you need to put in there, if the wizard for some reason doesn't work for you, if you run Mixxx with the controller debug parameter here on the end, in Mixxx 1.10 and before, it's MIDI debug. You go ahead and do that, and then while Mixxx is running, you have to actually activate the controller you're using. Let me show you here in the preferences. You go to controllers, terminal Mixxx 4, make sure it's enabled, and then at the console, when you move something on the controller, you see it prints something on the screen. So let me leave some space. Move that. I'm going to move that cue mix knob. So you can see we've got the status, which is a control change message, and the control number, which is 33. The value is we don't need that in the XML. The Mixxx actually handles that. So we have B0 for the status. Switch back to the XML, and here's the B0. And we have 33 for the control number, and here it is, 33 for the control number. That's the basic idea for getting mappings into the XML preset. Now, talking about the jog wheel, let's go back to the wiki and back one page. For jog wheels, you typically want them for scratching. That has to be done with Midi scripting, but it's not as complicated as it might sound at first. So we're going to go ahead and click Midi scripting. This describes in great detail how to add scripts to your XML file. It shows right here as an example. The main difference is that instead of using a key from the Mixxx controls list, you actually put a script function name here in for key, and you change this to say script binding for the option, and there it is. That's the only change you have to make to the XML. So I'm going to walk through this with you because I haven't done it for this controller yet. So the first thing we need to do is create a script file to put the function in. And the first step here, we actually need to add this block to our XML so that so Mixxx knows what script file to load. So I'm going to copy this right here, the script files block, and stick it up here right under controller in our file. Oops, too much indentation there. I think I'll call the file something smart like Reloop Terminal Mix 4 Scripts. Terminal Mix 4 Scripts. Now you can have spaces in the name if you like. This is just our convention. It's up to you. Reloop Terminal Mix 4 is a little long, so I'm just going to call it Terminal Mix 4. What I'm entering here is the prefix that has to be in front of every function in the script file. So let's create that file now. Since this is the name we're going to use, I'm just going to copy that, make a new file, and save the empty file. I'm sticking it under res and controllers because that's where the XML file is right now. I'll show you right here, Terminal Mix 4. and I've copied the name, so we're going to paste that here. That's what we're going to call it. So there we go. We now have an empty file. Back to the wiki. The first thing we need to have in a script file is this header. It's just this line that basically tells the JavaScript engine that we're going to have a bunch of functions here that have a prefix. So I'm just going to copy this, paste it here, and call it. This name here has to be exactly what the function prefix was. So let's go here and copy it. Terminal X4, we're going to copy that, delete, paste this, there we go. That's our first line. Now, this script can be as complex or as simple as you need. In our case, we're just dealing with a jog wheel, so we're only going to have two functions here. Going to go back to the wiki, scroll to the top here. We got quick links. Click right on scratching, jumps right down to it. Now, if you read here, it's saying this works with MIDI controls that sends relative signals. That means if you move the wheel just a little bit one way, it'll just say like a +1. It won't say I'm at this exact absolute position. It just says I've moved a little bit one way or the other. Most wheels work like this, and ones that don't can actually be scaled in script code, but that's more involved than what we're dealing with here. We're going to deal with the most case. So I'll leave some space here. Mixxx is still running, of course. I'm going to be moving the left jog wheel on this controller, so I'm just going to move the edges without touching the top, because this is a touch-sensitive wheel. So if I move it a little bit to the right, clockwise, you see we've got a control change message, we have the control number, and we have the value. And you see I've just moved it a couple of ticks, and they're all the same value, which means this is a relative wheel. Each time I move it, it puts one more tick on the screen. If I go counterclockwise, 3F is the opposite direction. 40 is center in hex. That corresponds to 64 decimal, but that doesn't matter. If I move it quickly counterclockwise, you see that the value goes down quite a bit more. The faster I move it, the lower the value goes. And it's the same way going forward, except it goes up. The faster I move it, the higher up it goes. So we know that, in fact, this is indeed a relative wheel. And is it touch sensitive? I mean, we know from the manufacturer, but if you touch it, we need to see what it sends. You see how we've got an OX90 here? That's a MIDI note on message. When I released it, it also sent the note on, which is, some controllers do that. You'll find maybe about half of them in the real world. Some of them send a note off when you release them. Some still send a note on, but the value is going to be different. When I touched it, it's a 7F, and it's a 0 when I release it. So let me touch it a couple more times. You can see what I'm talking about. So you touch and release, touch and release, touch, 7F, release, 0. That's the only value that's changing if you look. The only thing is right on the end. Let's just make sure that when we're not touching it, I'm just touching the edges, that we have it's B0 and control number 27. Let's make sure that doesn't change when we touch it. So I'm going to touch it and move it, and it's still B0 and 27, so that's good. That's what the example code is based on, and that's how most wheels work anyway. So let's go here. You should read all this, but I've already explained a lot of it. So here's the example code. This will work for most wheels. So just go ahead and copy this wholesale. We're just going to change a couple of the names. So copy. I'm going to paste it here in our script file. Obviously, we need to replace my controller with Terminal Mixxx4. So let's do a search and replace. Terminal Mixxx4. Replace all. Here we go. That was handy. Okay, so this example code has this one. It looks like it assumes it's written for a controller that sends a note off message when the button is released. That's not the case with ours. Ours sends note on every time, but the value changes. So it looks like this piece here is actually what we need. So let's get rid of this line and add this one. And it says right here, some wheels send OX90 on press and release, so you need to check the value. And that's what we're doing. Let me just get rid of the comment. We don't need to have that here. All right, I'm going to leave alpha and beta as they are, because we'll just leave it as the defaults for testing, and we can tune those later. So then it calls scratch enable. The current deck, I don't have a variable for this right now. Since this wheel is the left wheel, we're just going to set this to 1, because that controls deck 1 for now. This can get more involved, because the Terminal Mixxx4 actually uses the same wheel to control decks 1 and 3, but it sends different messages. But I don't want to get into all that right now. Once you get the basic idea of how to map a wheel, it's very easy to change this kind of stuff, and you can get more advanced with deck parsing and things. So we need a variable to see if we're scratching on this deck number. So again, we're going to change current deck just to 1 because that's what we're dealing with for simplicity's sake. This again is going to be 1, change that to 1. I could do search and replace, but I'm just looking at the code to make sure it's what we need. Let's set up a variable. Just using it like this I think will work just fine, but I'm going to add it at the top of the file anyway, just so that we have just so that it's defined. It's as an empty array. So we've got that. Okay, and now for turning the wheel, we have scratching which deck. Again, we're going to change this to a 1 because we're just going to deal with 1. Okay, now we've got a choice to make here from this example code. For a control that centers on 0, that means it'll show like 7F if you go backwards or 0, 1 if you go forwards, which is not the case with ours. Well, again, we'll show it again. If we move forward a little bit, it's 41, and we go back, it's 3F. So that means it centers on 40, which is right between those two. And here we go. So for a control that centers on 40, that's what we need. So let's delete this stuff because that's for that's for the other type of wheel. And that's it. Scratch tick. Oh, we're gonna set the deck here to deck 1. And that's it. That's all we need for our script file. We just need now to put these functions into the XML so that Mixxx knows to use them. So let's switch back here. All we got to do is copy a control block and paste it. The group, since we're dealing with deck 1, we're going to say channel 1. This doesn't matter right now, but that can be passed to the script function. The key is going to be just the function name. Now, what we're going to map first is the touch, just because I feel like mapping the touch first. It doesn't matter which order you do them, just as long as you do them both. So I'm going to copy the function name, paste it in here for the key. Let's double check again what we see when we touch it. It's okay with status is 90 and the control is 27. So let's go to here, change it to 90 and the control is 27. And this is where we have to put that script option, so Mixxx knows we're dealing with a script. Let's go back to the top of the file here. Here it is, script binding. Copy that, paste it here. And let's do the same thing for moving the wheel. So we copy that, paste it here. What's the name of the function? Wheel turn. I'll just copy the whole thing. Paste it there, wheel turn. And let's double check the values for when you're turning the wheel. So move it one way. B0 for the status and 27 for the control. So B0, 27, and script binding, and that's it. Boys and girls, that's all we need to do. Let's go back to Mixxx. We have to reload it, so let's go down to terminal Mixxx 4, enter, load a track, and look at that. If I move the wheel right now without touching it, nothing happens because we haven't mapped that to do anything. Well, we've mapped it, but it's not set to do anything because wheel turn only does something if there's scratching. That's how this is configured right now. Many people would like to map this to jogging, so let's do that in a second. I'll actually show you that too. But for right now, when I touch the wheel and move it, it scratches. Let me find something with a beat here. And that's it. That's all I had to do. Just copy that code. These are very high-res wheels, so you can do some nice Uzis here. So let's go ahead and play the track. Well, that's actually quite sensitive. I'll have to tune that a little bit. I move the wheel just a little bit, and it's tearing through the track. Yeah, that's a bit too sensitive. So let's see about making that less sensitive. Let's switch back to the script. Here we go. I didn't read the documentation. If we go to the back to scratching, we need to know the intervals per revolution for the wheel. The current example code just uses 128 because that's how most wheels are. In other words, there's 128 ticks if you spin the wheel one revolution. The Terminal Mixxx 4 has these 5-inch diameter wheels, and they're quite high resolution. It's going to be difficult to count this, but let me leave some room. Just type some garbage so I know what I'm looking for. Look here. Alright, now I'm going to touch it at one end of the wheel and move it all the way around clockwise once. That was about one turn. This is just a quick and dirty way to count the number of revolutions. So I'm just gonna select all the output in the terminal actually, and paste it into a text file. Oops, I just killed Mixxx. All right, paste it into a text file. How many lines? We have 700 lines. So some of them are 2s. So let's start with 750 pulses per revolution, because see some of these are 2s and 3s, so that'll get us close. So let's say 750 in here. Save that. I accidentally hit Control-C to copy, but I killed Mixxx in the process. So we'll just run it again. Okay, go to Preferences and reload that mapping. I shouldn't need to. I'm just doing it for safety's sake. It'll when you restart Mixxx, it reloads anyway. Okay, let's try scratching. Oh, that's much better. I'm moving the controller about the same amount as I was before, and you see the track is moving a lot less. Let's play it. Yeah, oh yeah, that's much better. So anyway, that's how you do it. Now it's just a matter of playing with the values that are in the script. So if you wanted to make it looser or tighter, you'd mess with the alpha value here or the beta value. I don't know exactly how they relate, but you have to just kind of play with them. This is generally going to be the most important value to set. You have to figure out exactly how many intervals per revolution, or close to it. And if you like it a looser or tighter, you can actually adjust the revolutions. You know, this is the RPM for the virtual record at 0% pitch. So you can set this to 45, for example, and then you'd have to move the wheel a little further to get the same effect. But that's it for the wheel. Let's do the jog too, since we're talking about this. When I do the outside of the wheel without touching it, you see nothing happens, and I'd like for it to just kind of slowly move the track or use it as a pitch bend. If we go to the wiki again, I'm going to go back one page and go to the Mixxx controls. There actually is a control for jog in here. Let's go down to channel N. I think it's called jog. Yeah, there it is, channel N jog. So what we're going to want to do then is map the wheel to this control when the wheel is not being touched on the top. And that's all stuff you can do in script, because the XML can only map to one thing, and in this case it's mapped to a script function. So let's do the rest in the script function. Get rid of this file, we don't need this now. So if we're not, right now it's set to say if we're not scratching, don't do anything. But we actually do want to do something, so let's add, let's make some room to type some more code in here. So if we're not scratching, we're going to say we want to jog instead. Do wheel jog. That's just for our reference. All right, so we know the value is going to, it centers around 64 or OX40, which it doesn't matter, JavaScript takes both types. We'll just leave it as decimal. Since we need the new value in both cases, well, I'm going to move it above this if block, and we're just going to say engine set value, and again I know this from the scripting wiki, Midi Scripting, reading and setting Mixxx control values. We're going to do engine set value, and the group and the key, and then the new value that we want to set. So let's actually just copy that, paste it here, and like I said, we were talking about we're using jog. I'm actually just going to use group here and add group on the end of this, because that's another thing detailed here. This actually gets sent to the script. The group there comes right out of here. So this channel 1 will be sent straight to the script. So the advantage of doing this is that actually I can make a second control block like this for the other wheel. I don't know what the value is, but let's just say it's 37. I could just copy this as is, change this to 37, make that channel 2, and I'm done. I don't have to change anything in the script, because this makes it dynamic. So anyway, I'm going to add group. I'm going to make this here, and the key is going to be jog. It's got to be in quotes. Oops. And the new value is the same. It's up here. So what that's going to do is send a -1 if the wheel's moving backwards slowly, and +1 if it's moving forwards, because it centers on 64. So when it's centered at 64, 64 minus 64 is 0. Doing it in terms of hex, here I'll just move it again. If I go forward, it's OX41. So it centers on OX40. So 41 minus 40 is 1. And if we go backwards, 3F is 3F minus 40 is actually -1. Doing it in decimal, that would be 63 minus 64 is -1. So that's how that's going to work. Now let's give it a shot. Save it. Go back to Mixxx. Reload the preset. And let's see. Now I'm just touching the edge of the wheel, and this is what it does when it's not playing. So let's play. And now if I move it backwards, it slows a little bit. If I move forwards, it makes it a little faster. It goes somewhere where there's pitch. See? If I go backwards, it's lower and faster. So that's my jog, and if I touch the wheel, I get scratching. And that's a complete jog wheel. I'm happy with that. I just need to do it now for the other wheel, and in this controller's case, for decks 3 and 4 that it also supports. Mixxx 1.11 doesn't have decks 3 and 4 on the screen, but it does have them in the code, so you actually can control 4 decks with a controller. So that's that. Hopefully that answers a lot of questions, because I know a lot of people have had questions about that. And feel free to hop on our forums if you have any further questions. Just mixx.org/forums. And go ahead and ask questions here on troubleshooting and FAQ, or even under controller mappings right here. We have a subforum dedicated to this. And so we've got a lot of people that posted a lot of different mappings for lots of different controllers. You can grab one of them, you can tune one, you can start one from scratch on your own, whatever you like to do. We're all about user choice. So thanks for watching, and have a good day.